What is up, guys, and welcome to, I think, the fifth or sixth tutorial. Although the last one wasn't really a tutorial, it was just some tips. But anyways, a subscriber requested that I show you all, or specifically show him, and I will show you too, since I'm making a video about it, how I rig action figures, okay? So as far as I'm aware, usually with stop motion, like when you have puppets and stuff that people make themselves, they usually might have like a hole in the back of it that they would fit a rig into, or they may drill holes in the feet to kind of screw the figure onto the floor and stuff. Of course, this is a Fison or TB League 1/6 scale seamless figure, so I don't want to drill holes in it and stuff. It's actually a pretty expensive doll. It's like, I think like $80 is for like the body. And I use action figures in general. I don't use puppets and make puppets and stuff like that. So to find a way to basically rig these without damaging the figure was kind of challenging. And I'm still looking for a better way to do this, but I'm going to show you how I currently do it. And I'm not just going to tell you, okay, I use this and I stick that there and I animate. I'm actually going to show you the product I'm using, of course, how I set it up and stuff. And I'm going to do a test animation so that you can actually see my workflow, and I'll show you the final result when it's done. All right. All right, guys, so here is the webcam mount, which I use to rig my action figures. It is a 32-inch webcam mount or stand. I'll link it in the description. I got it from Amazon. It says it is made by a company. It says JCWINY. Visit the JCWINY store. So you see the top of it here. The top of it has like a regular, screw for your camera, webcam, or whatever. But it also has this little like, I don't know what you would even call it, but it's just like a screw-on top, basically, that you can undo like this, and then you can pull the top off. And there's a ball underneath. And so what I do is I get a transparent rubber band and I place it between those two parts, and I'll show you that right now. In a minute. I record this video before this voiceover, so I'm kind of adding this afterwards. So yeah, this transparent rubber band, you want to put this on, and basically what I do is I put the rubber band around the, I don't know what it's called, maybe the strip, like the strip area for the screw mechanism. I try to get the rubber band in that area and screw it into place, basically. So you'll see me do that in just a moment. Yeah, like that. And then screw it on, basically securing the rubber band onto that part. And it can be a little tricky at times. This is actually, I think, my third attempt in the recording. I finally got it. And so there you have the rubber band firmly in place. And then I'll take the figure or doll or whatever you want to call it. I used to hate calling them dolls, but I used to hate calling them wrestling action figures dolls, but I don't mind calling these dolls because they're like 12 inches tall. So I mean, and they have real hair, so they're, I mean, I have to admit they are dolls. Anyways, put the feet through the rubber band there and get it around his waist. And that is like basically the first step. I mean, it's pretty much, that is basically how I rig him. I'm going to show you like the whole setup though in just a moment. So yeah, this is how I like attach him to my desk. This is where I have like usually my diorama set up, and I'm basically gonna just try to position him in such a way that I can animate with as little stress as possible, because the stand is actually, the arm is actually kind of tough and difficult to move, which is a good and a bad thing. It's good in terms of stability and strength, like it can hold a decent amount of weight, but then it is bad because it can be kind of hard to maneuver and bend around and stuff sometimes. You see, I had to turn him upside down actually just now to get a much better positioning, I suppose. And just kind of putting him in place, and you see it's secured to the desk, and that is how it is attached to him at the waist there, right? And now I'm just going to show you me actually animating this guy, right? Now the thing about this is that, as I mentioned before, this webcam arm or mount can be very difficult to maneuver sometimes, and because it is kind of springy, it doesn't have a spring in it, but it's kind of springy, so you may move it to a certain position and then it kind of retracts itself back to an older position. You know, it has some resistance in it, so sometimes you really have to like really firmly press it and put it in place and get it to stay where you want it to stay. But of course, a good way to work around that, it can be a little stressful at times, I suppose, but basically when you're doing stop motion, I recommend that you check back each frame, each picture you take, you want to compare it to the previous picture and make sure it looks good, right? You don't want to like do the whole animation and then check what the pictures look like after you're done. Like, so this is the final, well, this is a partially complete result. I filmed more after this, but I want to show you guys what it looked like right now. And if you see, that is what it looks like with him walking. It's not perfect. I definitely could do a better animation, but I really just want to get this video out. And here, so now we're going into my Windows Explorer here, and I have all the pictures in a folder, so I'm organized, and I'm gonna rename them, like, you know, original photo 1 through 10, so that when I'm actually editing in GIMP, and you can use Photoshop or whatever you want, or whatever other program you know of to do this, but I'm basically gonna begin photo editing these now to get rid of the rig. And I'm also going to name the background images background, so I know what they are. I just like to have very good visual representation while I'm working, so I know like what the image is exactly without having to, like, you know, dig too deeply into it. And now I'm actually going to open these in GIMP, right? I'm going to start a GIMP project for this. And I'm going to show you why you also want to take an image of the background, okay? Either before or after you film the figure. Unless you're doing green screen, then you don't have to. But if you're doing an environment like I'm doing, you want to get a photograph of the background without the figure there. That way you can actually put the background as a layer underneath, and when you erase the rig, the background will be what is there, instead of seeing like just blank space or transparency or a white, you know, you'll actually have the background right behind there. So I'm just loading these in right now, and there's 10 of them, so they're gonna take a little bit. There we go. So now I'm actually gonna, you know, hide the other frames. So I'm gonna start working on frame 1. I'm just gonna show you how I do frame 1 and frame 2. And of course you can infer that the same process is basically what I do for all the other frames, but there's many different ways to do it. The process that I recorded here, I actually ended up doing a different one, but this works as well. So I'm gonna make a new layer group, call it frame 1, right? And you need to add an alpha channel that will add transparency, so when you erase, you won't have just a big white blotch showing up. You'll actually have transparency. So you see right here now, as I erase this, the background shows up and the rig is disappearing. Okay, now depending on the lighting or your camera's flickering and all that stuff, you may have to edit the background a bit, like change the hue a bit, change the lightness and the darkness, change the contrast a little bit. Basically do what you can to try to make the background that you took the picture of blend in very well with the figure's image in front of it, right? So I often have to change different settings in the hue and chroma in GIMP and stuff to make them blend in well. But basically this is basically what I do, okay? And now the rig is gone, and all I would have to do is make these blend together, because you can kind of tell that the figure's image is a little bit lighter. So yeah, in hue and chroma, I'll try to like, see that, like stuff like that. You want to play around with those settings. You can even separate the background into parts. Like what I ended up doing was making the floor one layer, making part of the wall one layer, so I could change the color of the wall without changing the color of the floor and stuff like that. You can get creative, you know, you basically got to figure out how you're going to do this. But if you're doing green screen, then you won't have to worry about that at all, because once you erase the rig, you don't need any other background there, because they're going to do a green screen anyways, right? But yeah, so this is just me showing you some of my process, trying to basically blend these together, right? And this already looks pretty good. If you were just doing one image, this could be good enough. But because I'm doing stop motion, I need to make sure that the frames look good transitioning between each other. Because when you have frames moving from one to the next, it is a lot easier to notice changes and errors, or at least imperfections in your image, right? Okay, so that's frame 2 that I'm gonna work on now. So I'm gonna add alpha channel to this as well, and do the same thing I did for the other one, right? Just erasing that rig and getting it out of there. Yeah. Right. Now, of course, if your camera settings are better than mine, or I don't know what other conditions may be better, your background may blend in completely perfectly with the figure's image. So you may not even have to worry about changing the color of the background and the contrast and the lightness and all that stuff. But I often do have to do that, right? As I said before, if I was doing only like one photo, like figure photography, I wouldn't have to do as much as I do. But because I'm doing stop motion, is definitely a much more challenging process, right? And especially without green screen. So I'm saving the project. And yeah, so that is basically what it looks like for now, right? But yeah, so here's the final result. After I got rid of the rig and I did a bunch of, editing and stuff, you can see I was able to get the rig completely out of the image, and it looks pretty natural. I am actually pretty pleased with how it turned out. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful to you, and specifically to the subscriber that asked for this video. If you have any other tutorials you want to see, or videos you want me to make and stuff about stop motion or voice acting or video editing, leave the comments down below, and if I know how to do it, I'll try my best to get to it at some point. Thanks for watching. Peace.